History has always been written by the victors, and often revised by those with power. For centuries, King James I of England has been portrayed as a white monarch in lavish attire, a key figure in shaping English literature through his authorization of the King James Bible in 1611. But what if that image is incomplete, or worse, deliberately manipulated? What if the man responsible for one of the most widely read texts in human history wasn't the European figure we've come to accept, but, in fact, a black man erased from his own legacy? To examine this claim, we must first understand the historical context. King James VI of Scotland became King James I of England in 1603, uniting the crowns after the death of Elizabeth I. He was a descendant of the House of Stuart, a royal family, with deep ties in Scotland. Traditional portraits of King James depict a pale-skinned nobleman, yet early accounts, lesser-known writings, and some disputed portraits describe him as having swarthy skin, curly hair, and features that modern readers might interpret as African. In a 17th-century European context, the word black wasn't always used the way it is today. It could mean dark-skinned, Moorish, or simply someone not seen as ethnically Anglo. Some reports and critical literature from the time referred to the Stuart bloodline as having blackamoors or dark-featured ancestry. Given that African and Arab influence entered Europe through Moorish rule in Spain and cultural exchange via the Roman Empire, it isn't inconceivable that black ancestry was present in European royal lines, especially Scottish and Iberian. Further adding to the theory is the historical whitening of figures in art. Just as Egyptian pharaohs and early saints were reimagined with European features during the Renaissance and Enlightenment eras, so too may King James have been visually revised. Many official portraits of the king were painted decades after his reign, and art patronage at the time often demanded idealized, Eurocentric features, regardless of historical truth. King James's name is most famously tied to the 1611 translation of the Bible into English, the King James Version. Some conspiracy theorists and Afrocentric historians argue that erasing his black identity was a way to conceal the fact that a major tool of Christian influence came from African lineage. If the man who commissioned the most influential English Bible was black, what would that mean for modern Christianity's racial perceptions? It's a question that makes some scholars uncomfortable, but it's also one worth asking. Much of the denial around a black King James stems from the same colonial impulses that erased or downplayed black contributions across global history. From Beethoven to Socrates to the Olmecs, non-white roots have often been either ignored or openly dismissed by Western academia. The claim about King James being black has been largely relegated to the margins of scholarship, not necessarily disproven but ignored because it threatens the traditional narrative. There are also cultural reasons why many people want King James to remain as he's commonly portrayed. He's a pillar of British identity, Protestant Christianity, and literary achievement. For some, the idea that this towering figure might have been of African descent feels disruptive. But history should never be about comfort. It should be about truth, even when that truth contradicts what we've always believed. Silence around this possibility is not evidence of falsehood, but of discomfort with the implications. So was King James black? The mainstream historians will say no, but alternative researchers and those exploring Afrocentric history will say, look closer. The answer may never be universally accepted, but the conversation itself reveals something even more important. The way historical narratives are shaped, filtered, and sometimes completely fabricated. Until all truths are allowed to surface, uncomfortable or not, we're only reading a sanitized version of the past.